Welcome to the podcast today. I am joined with Audrey Stringer, soon to have a name change, but I'll let her explain that to you. And she is a hypnotherapist, and she helps entrepreneurs get started in their business so that they can, be seen in the media and everywhere. So without further ado, I'm going to let you add to that a little bit, and we'll get digging in.
Awesome. Thanks, Dawn. I'm so glad to be here. So my new name is going to be Audrey Pecora. I recently got married I guess it's been a little over a month now, which is exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm a hypnotherapist. Like Dawn said, I really am passionate about helping new coaches, new guides, new healers really start using their gifts in the world because I know the feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm certified, but what the heck do I do? And how do I actually put myself out there? So I really help people kind of break through those limiting beliefs and really just own their gift and start serving the world because, as we both know, it's so needed right now.
I wanted to ask you if somebody is thinking about, breaking out and doing something, how did you get started in this career path?
Wow. So, I think a lot of us who are now in service of others usually got started because of our own stuff, right? So, first going on my own healing journey and realizing, wow, I've learned so much. I have so much knowledge. I think it would be such a disservice for me to sit on this myself. I feel this calling now to help others with the same things that I've walked myself through. Any guide or healer coach, like it's usually that story because we realize the power in what we've overcome and what we walked ourselves through. And now it's like, all I can do now is give it back to others.
That is the exact reason I started this podcast. People say, "Oh, why are you doing a podcast? And it's time consuming and takes money and what have you." But I have had such a transformation in my life that I mirror exactly what you said.
Mhm.
It would be a disservice of me not to share and put that out in the world to serve others, because that's really part of my platform is, ignite, inspire, and then put it out there, right? Serve others, because what you give to others, you will reap tenfold. And that's not why we serve, but it just happens. And we were talking earlier about really the state of news, social media. It's steeped with so much discord and opposite ends of the spectrum. And you against me, I feel a calling to bring people together, share positivity and abundance and joy, because I know what I put out in the world is what I'm going to get back. What I focus on is what I'm going to experience. So if I'm stuck in that negative, opposite polarity mindset, that's what I'm going to experience.
Mhm.
Would you like to speak a little bit about that?
I guess I can completely agree. And I think we all are guilty of maybe feeling that way in some aspects of our life just because we're so bombarded with the news and social media, all of the horrible things that are happening around the world. And I think what somebody said to me once, which made so much sense, was like, we weren't meant to be consuming news happening all the way across the country. Like we're just not built to handle all of that, and I think we're seeing that now in our mental health, right? Where people are really struggling because we're just constantly being bombarded with all of the horrible things that are happening. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be informed, but I think I consider myself a very sensitive being, and I have to be very careful how much I decide to consume. But on the flip side of that, it's like, I think because of all the things that are happening, people like you and we're creating things like this podcast to bring people together to say, you know what, hey, like we can raise the vibration, the collective together. Like we don't have to fall victim to what's happening. And so I also think because it's happening, there's a flip side to it. So it's almost like that duality, right? Like the dark and the light. It has to exist at the same time. So that's how I feel about it.
There's a term out called toxic positivity, and that's not what we're talking about here. I
Mhm.
do believe in being positive. I do believe in putting heartfelt, positive messages out in the world. But to speak to what you were talking about, I remember when 9/11 happened and I was working in the recovery room. And at that time, all the little bays where the people were had these little personal TVs that they could watch while they were getting ready to go to surgery or recovering. And all of a sudden, all the TVs were showing the same thing. And it was like repeat, repeat, repeat. They kept showing it over and over and over. You couldn't get away from it. And
Yeah.
it was such a surreal experience. And then social media had it on repeat, repeat, repeat. And because of that, I can still visualize that. I can see the planes hitting the buildings
Yeah.
because it was just so ingrained into my mind. And not to take away from the tragedy of it and the people that have lost lives, but if we're going to change the world, I always say bad things happen to good people, but what are you going to do with it? What's your purpose in it? And that's where I want to put my focus, not in toxic positivity. I know bad things happen. I've experienced a lot myself.
Mhm.
But if I stay in that negativity or that event that was so traumatic, I can't enjoy the right here, right now. This book that I just was a part of, Radical Freedom, talks about that, right? Radical freedom is being free wherever we are, whatever circumstance we're in, no matter what. And we have that choice.
Yeah.
So it's not about toxic positivity. It's about being joyful and content and happy and free right here, right now, because this is the best moment of my life.
Mhm.
How do you help people? Because I know with the hypnotherapy, that's probably part of what you do. So, how
Mhm.
do you help people get there, especially entrepreneurs and coaches? Because sometimes we have this scarcity mindset or fear of failure that puts a roadblock up so that we don't move forward. How do you help people with that?
Because I've experienced it myself, right? Where it's like, who am I to be doing this? Like, am I qualified? I did it to myself, but can I help others? Like, can I deliver the same thing that I delivered to myself? And it's all of these limiting beliefs start popping up when you come to that crossroads of, oh my gosh, I feel like this is what I'm meant to be doing, but I feel like an imposter, or I feel like like, again, who am I to be doing this? Like, all those things popping up, and it's like I see so many times it's stopping people because it almost stopped me. It's a huge breakthrough outside of your comfort zone to be like, okay, now I'm the person who's going to be teaching and sharing and helping. It's so easy just to not do that. It's easy just to be like, okay, well, I did it for myself. Maybe that was all I needed to do. Maybe I'm not meant to help other people. But I truly believe if you have that desire within you, and if you've even been called on your own journey, it's probably, I can guarantee that it's probably because you are meant to now give it to other people. How I help people is really to understand, like, where are these limiting beliefs coming from, like getting to the root of them, and then rewiring them in your subconscious, right? Because we know now our subconscious rules 95% of our reality. And if we're just trying to use our willpower, which is just our conscious mind, to try to push through that, well, you can't you can't betray your subconscious because it won't let you. So you'll end up self-sabotaging, which I've done,
Mhm.
and go back to square one, right? And then you'll maybe try again, and then you go back to square one. Or maybe you're so fearful of leaving your comfort zone that just the thought of posting online, or, putting your offers out there is just so overwhelming that you just don't do any of it, right? And again, that's all like fear, because the subconscious mind, its sole job is to keep you safe, and anything outside your comfort zone is unsafe. So you doing this, becoming a leader in your industry, or guiding people through your certification, it's outside your comfort zone. So your subconscious and your nervous system is registering it as unsafe, but it doesn't mean it's unsafe. It just means it's unfamiliar. If we can learn how to create safety in your subconscious and your nervous system to slowly stretch your comfort zone. And sometimes it does take being brave and just being courageous and just putting yourself out there. Sometimes you have those moments of like, oh my God, like, I don't know what's going to happen if I just put this out there. But slowly but surely, just like anything, learning anything new. I mean, I was a college athlete. Like the first time I picked up a volleyball, I had no idea what I was doing, right? I had no idea how to play volleyball. Fast forward 8 years later, I was playing on a college volleyball team, right? So it's like, I think sometimes we get in our head about, oh my gosh, I have to be an expert as soon as I start. But it's like,
That's it.
you got
Yes.
to start somewhere. And, I'm speaking literally from personal experience, because I put that pressure on myself until I just reminded myself every day, like,
Right.
you just got to start somewhere. Coach one person today. Put yourself out there one time today. And then that compound effect really will start getting you out there, getting you comfortable, until one day you're just going to pop on coaching calls and it's going to be no big deal, right? But maybe the first time you do it, your heart's beating really fast and you're nervous and all of the things. But then fast forward a couple of years later, it's going to be easy. So I think when we just can break through our comfort zone every day, we're going to start training our subconscious and our nervous system to get more comfortable with this new career that we're wanting.
Absolutely. I had a podcast prior to this one with my friend Lynn Mazzolini. She did all the tech because I'm in the age group where I didn't grow up with all this tech. So it's very intimidating. And it was exactly what you talked about. It was like a wall for me. And she had a sabbatical in Italy for a year. So she decided she did not want to continue the podcast. And she said, you should do it. You can do it. And I'm like, oh no, I can't. I can't do the tech. I'm so scared. And I had learned the tech, and it may have been painful because I don't think what we're saying is saying yes to these big, scary things is going to be easy.
Mm-mm.
It's just saying yes, being willing to fall down, get back up. I can remember when I first put my trailer out and I had to download it and add music. And I called my friend. I said, I can't do it. I've been working on this for 2 hours. I can't get it right. And she said, walk away and come back. But, I made it through that and I got the trailer out. Now it's pretty easy for me to edit a podcast. Is it professional and crisp and beautiful like some podcasts? No, it's just I am me. I'm just me. I love it. I love getting to meet people like you, the younger generation, because you're a little bit younger than me, probably one of my kids' age, seeing how you are helping shift the culture, change people's perspectives so that we can live in a more beautiful, abundant, free world. Saying yes is part of my platform. It's interesting that you said that because the chapter in the book, Radical Freedom, that I just released, is all about the ability to say yes. Even when the world says no, even when people say, you can't do that. Who are you to do that? Who are you to say this? Just having that force within you, confidence to say yes, the ability to realize that you might fall down, you might scrape your knee, and that's okay because that's going to have you produce something that's even better after you make those mistakes. I love everything that you just said. I want to talk about what event or what kind of life change had you shift your perspective and look deeper within to find this gift that you are now sharing with others.
My older sister is severely mentally ill. I guess it was now about 4 years ago. And just to put it in perspective, she's schizophrenic, really on the severe end of mental illness. Also has a disorder that doesn't allow her to understand her mental illness. So it's very difficult for us as a family to get her help that she needs. So if anyone listening to this like has a family member like that, because it's something that you don't really realize until you know someone or someone shares something like this, where you can really understand what a family goes through when a family member has a severe mental illness but doesn't actually want to get the help that they need. So about 4 years ago during COVID, she actually was sent to jail because the treatment in the United States for people like that it's just not great right now. So really they should be being sent to hospitals or treatment centers. But unfortunately, our jails are holding most people with severe mental illness. So this was a really tragic moment for my family because we knew she needed help. But unfortunately, during this situation, she was sent to jail. While in jail, we found out that she was not doing well, to the point where inmates were really concerned about her well-being. She actually went into something called catatonia, which is a severe trauma response where you don't want to eat or drink and you literally can't move. It's almost like a severe freeze that happens with people with severe mental illness. But because the people in jail aren't equipped to handle that, they were not taking care of her needs. They actually were abusing her. This was just like a shock to my whole family. And I was at the point where I kind of was ignoring all the things that I knew I needed to work on. From growing up with a sibling like this, there's just a lot of trauma that has happened over the years. And I just kind of was like, I'm just going to push it away. I'm going to push it away. But when this happened, it's almost like an eruption happened within me where it's like, I cannot push away this pain anymore. So I had to dive into it so deep. And it cracked me open in ways that I never thought would crack me open. And it really paved the path for me to get my own healing, because I realized like I cannot continue on like this because I was just getting so upset all the time. I was emotionally reactive. I was getting sick all the time. My immune system was shot. I was not being the person that I knew I could be. I realized like I just could not continue on like this. And it really kind of brought me to my rock bottom in my own personal life. That was the moment where I realized I needed to get serious help around my trauma. And like you were kind of saying, like, I can't let what was happening in my family impact my peace. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't still grieving or experiencing pain. I was letting it impact my daily life, and it wasn't healthy for me.
Right.
So I really had to start working on myself, and that meant I went to go see a hypnotherapist. I did a lot of trauma healing. It's a lot of deep shadow work on myself. That really started bringing me so much more peace. I mean, obviously, I had to go through the pain first. I had to go to the dark parts of me first to experience the peace. I can look back and say now that I'm so thankful, even her being a part of my life. I know for whatever reason, my soul came down here with her to learn from her experience. I'm so grateful for it. And I know that it's actually given me this path that I was meant to go on. You can feel grief and pain at the same time of feeling peace and joy. For a long time, I thought, oh, it only could be one or the other. I have to feel all this pain because she's in pain. And I didn't allow myself to feel joy because I felt guilty for feeling that way. But I realized like that's not what she would have wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So it really allowed me to just do this work, come back home to who I truly am before all of the trauma happened in my life and in my family. And it's just given me a lot of peace around really why I'm here.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I think that was really brave. And I have to tell you, I was just researching catatonia and
Wow.
dystonia last night because I too have a family member that has some mental illness. Aside from all the losses that I've had from addiction, the mental illness piece, watching someone navigate that you love and go through the pits and the valleys, all the discomfort, and realizing that you are completely powerless is really challenging. Thank you for sharing that. I don't share too much about that mental illness, about my family member, because that's their journey and not mine to share at this point. Maybe at some point, if they feel compelled to share that about themselves, I would definitely share it, but not at this time. It has been a treacherous ride, to put it mildly,
Mm-hmm.
for me and my family and the person that has the mental illness. Just
Mm-hmm.
really hard. I firmly believe in the creative outlet. That's really part of my therapy is creativity. This right here is part of that creativity. But as you can see behind me, I also paint. I help other people ripple kindness out into the world. It's been quite the journey. And as you said, we are given these darkness or these shadows to help us find our soul purpose. One thing I wanted you to elaborate on, because a lot of people do not understand shadow work, or the shadows and that terminology. So I would like you to explain that a little bit to people, because sometimes I think people get like, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so really my understanding of it, I mean, I'm sure everybody has different interpretations of what shadow work is, but really my understanding is it's the parts of ourselves that we've rejected or disowned because they were maybe not accepted growing up. And, when you think about that, it's not like it's the bad parts of you, right? It actually could be really great qualities that you have, but it wasn't fully accepted growing up, because we all grow up in different households and under different parents and in different school systems. So, we kind of have to conform to survive. I can just give an example for myself. I'm an Aries, so I can be very like direct and passionate. Growing up, I felt like that never worked for me, like being direct. The shadow word for me is like bossy because I really like to like just say it how it is. And this is something I'm actually just still integrating into myself. But because that really wasn't fully accepted, I pushed that a little bit away into my shadow and I people pleased, right? Because that's what got me love and accepted. Being direct is actually a great quality that people really respect. It's not necessarily the bad parts of you, it's just you may not have accepted that, or someone around you may not have accepted it, so you just kind of pushed it into your shadow. What happens is like that actually doesn't just go away. It's just like we're trying to overcompensate for these parts of ourselves that we've rejected. So if you can just start asking yourself like some deeper questions, some higher end questions about who you are. This is a journey about like self discovery and getting to know yourself, really connecting with your inner child, because that you was probably the closest authentic version of you. So if you can connect back with her, you're going to understand better, like, oh, she was like very honest, or she was very curious. Maybe you lost your curiosity because you asking questions all the time was like, hey, can you stop asking me so many questions? So you're like, oh, okay, like mom doesn't like when I ask all those questions. So your curiosity gets maybe rejected a little bit. So then you stop asking all those questions, right? So it's like, if you can understand and connect better with your inner child and your authenticity, you can kind of understand what pieces you have pushed into your shadow. And entrepreneurship, for sure, will shine a light on all of your shadow. because you don't really have a choice when you're taking these steps and trying to be a coach or a leader. That's really the best way that I explain it to people.
I love that explanation. When I did some of this work, I had an NLP coach, and she took me through the timeline back way before I was even born. And
Mhm.
I discovered a lot of deep-seated guilt that I carried around the death of my son and grandson. And I love the fact that you brought up, because a lot of people don't bring up the inner child, and it's so vitally important. I see a connection now of why I truly believe creativity is one of the root principles to get us through those dark moments or dark shadows. Because think about it, when you're a little kid, we would sing like nobody's watching. We would dance and we didn't care what people thought of us. We would draw and paint and color and
Mhm.
act. And as we grew, maybe somebody would say, "Hey, stay in the lines." "Oh, that's better." Or, "Ah, you're singing off key a little bit." Or, "Oh, you look funny when you're dancing." And it represses all that creativity.
Mhm.
I think when you talk about embracing your inner child and letting that inner child sing and soar, that is such a key element. If you can get back to the place where you challenged people, like you said, and didn't care about the responses, or asked a lot of questions, or sang in the kitchen, or drew a picture with complete joy, that's what we want to experience right here, right now.
Mhm.
I love everything that you said. Listen, I have this card deck, and one of the things that I like to do with people is pick a little card. This is the Quantum Oracle card deck.
Oh, cool.
The God of my understanding always gives us messages. So I am going to pull a card, and then we will talk about it. And after we talk about this, I really want you to tell people how they can find you. And again, I will have that in the show notes. The honoring path. Obviously, we are honoring both of our paths. And so this is spot on. So this says a woman stands on stage. Before her, an audience applauds her shining presence. A purely practical level, this indicates that you're going to receive a position of recognition for something you've done or something that you're about to do. On a deeper, more personal level, it reveals a shift in others' attitudes as well as your own toward you. You're starting to see the best in yourself. And as your self regard increases, others will see the best in you also. This is exactly what we've been talking about. The energy of self honor is the only way to get the response from the universe you long for. So choose an increasing intention of self respect in your thoughts, your behaviors, such as powerful daily approaches to projects with dignity and authentic power. Take a bow. When you acknowledge yourself, the world acknowledges you back. So the affirmation is I choose to prioritize myself. I am truly valuable, deserving of my own self care.
Self-care is doing the inner work. That is self-care. It doesn't just not necessarily mean bubble baths and, massages. It's actually like loving yourself enough to know that you deserve to do the inner work so that you can feel better.
Yeah, like journaling. I have talked about journaling for years and I've dabbled in it, but this past year, with my coach, I started really doing a deep dive with journaling, writing out my future and writing things out and celebrating myself. Journaling for me has been a huge catalyst of change to see the world in a better light, see others in a better light, and not get caught up in negativity of politics or Olympics. Can you believe that we have had such a negative spin on Olympics, women's basketball, art, singing? theater, every single thing that's pure and good can be spun in a negative light if you allow it to. I personally have my beliefs about those things, but if somebody chooses to believe something different, that's okay. I just don't want to get caught up in the name calling and the you're right, I'm right, and we clash because, we're all here together. Let's just try and make things work.
One thing that Kathy says that I feel like I really resonate with, our mentor, she's always like, we all have to disagree. Like it's normal to not agree on everything. And I think we're all wanting each other to have the same opinion, but it's like society wouldn't function if we didn't have disagreements or one person had an opposing thought to another person. It's like that's how society is built, is the fact that we have our different opinions. So I think spending less time trying to get people to agree with our opinions or someone's opinions, and just us being okay with the fact that some people aren't going to like our opinions and
Right.
standing in our truth anyway. Your truth matters, your opinion matters. The right people will come to you and want to hear more of what you have to say because it's coming from you and your experiences.
When you talk about differing opinions and contrast, I think there's beauty in the contrast. For example, I don't know, some people can see it, this painting behind me. There's very bright yellow, and then there's this dark royal purple, and they contrast.
Mm-hmm.
There's beauty in the contrast.
Mm-hmm.
Learning to live with that contrast helps us see the world in a more vibrant, beautiful, perceptive way. And if we didn't have contrast, everything would be bland and boring. What do you do with that contrast? Do you butt heads, or do you put it next to each other and see the beauty in it? When people work with you, what sort of things do you have, like one-on-one sessions? Do you have group coaching? What are the things that you do?
What we do is we work on the subconscious beliefs around launching, or getting your coaching business out there. We work on a subconscious and body level. So it's like we're doing the deep integration because the subconscious is also the body, right? You can feel the emotion,
Yeah.
the body holding you back sometimes. So that really is a great entry point if you're wanting to get yourself out there as a coach, but you're just feeling so much resistance in your body. In that 90 minutes, like we'll get you feeling so much more confident and having the clarity to take the first step. If you're wanting something a little bit deeper, I do have a 3-month mentorship program where we work together for 3 months on the same idea of limiting beliefs, rewiring your subconscious, working on your nervous system, calibrating your system to the coach that you want to be. And then I do run group coaching programs every so often. I'm in one right now, so I'm not in a launch of a new program just yet. But if you follow me on Audrey s.wellness on Instagram, you can just stay tuned on some of my coaching programs. And then my website is just audreystringer.com.
Thank you so much. I firmly believe that having a personal coach allows you to be a better coach. So obviously I follow Kathy Heller. I love everything she has to say. My personal coach is Jessica Hughes, and she has led me on this journey
Great.
of abundance, putting myself out there like no other. I put out a journal thing to go with the chapter in my book. So yeah,
Oh,
it's
so cool.
amazing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't wait to get your book and read that. So I'm so happy for you.
I am so glad that you said yes to be on this podcast because I've learned so much from you. And guys, I will have all of her information in the notes, links, because I know we like things easy. And I will see you next week. Go catch that soul shine.